Hello, my name is Elijah Wells, and here it is, my top anticipated films of 2023. So, here it is, but of course, here are some ground rules to get the thing rolling. I'm not going to go through every film on this list just for timekeeping sake. That's one rule. Second rule is, even though I do like a lot of indie films or like some more obscure films, but I'm not going to mention them. Just some post they usually have start their promotion like months before their to get released. And also, I'm not doing like any streaming titles, like anything on Disney Plus, Netflix, or Amazon Prime, because again, they get usually announced like when they're released at the last minute. And of course, I'm not including films that are released in major chunks of the world, like for example, like Babylon, Fables, Mantar, which are released like in the United States and a lot of film festivals around the world this year, but will be released in the United Kingdom. But of course, the one last rule is all these releases are in accordance of the United Kingdom. Like they're going to be released in the UK in these given dates, and of course, the final rule is that they could all be going down to streaming or. With the fate of Batgirl, they could only never see the light of day. But again, all's well ends well. Here's what I'm looking forward for 2023. Winter releases. Starting off on the 13th of January, there's Megan, which stars Violet McGrew. I've heard some bits of it on social media and some celebrities tweeted about it, but I'm not sure if it's for me. There's also on the 27th of January, there's Plane with Gerard Butler and Mike Kotler, which I'm imagining it's basically Lost, but it's set in the Philippines and it's full of Filipino warlords. And just hopefully it doesn't have like a famously awful ending like the original series did. But I think it might be a bit more than an average Gerard Butler action film, like something like Greenland or something, but we'll just see how it goes. On the 3rd of February, this is a very interesting one. There's Knock at the Cabin by M. Night Shyamalan, who's definitely in a bit of a resurgence at the moment with like Split, Glass, Old, and with his latest film Knock at the Cabin with Dave Bautista, Rupert Grint, and Jonathan Goff. Basically, it's about a family's holiday that gets rudely interrupted by some invaders, and the invader says, "You must avert the apocalypse, as in save the world or save your family." This could get very bonkers, like with its twist endings, like M. Night Shyamalan is best known for at the moment. And there's 10th February, Magic Mike Last Dance, which, okay. And also on the 17th of February, there's Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumanium. Even though I'm sort of on the fence with Ant-Man, but I think I'm definitely going to like this one for sure, because it's set this time in the Quantumanium, or in the world that's so small that it's smaller than an atom. So that looks interesting, even though the latest stuff from MCU has been extremely inconsistent at best. Like, I definitely liked Black Panther, but I wasn't that all keen. I didn't really like Thor: Love and Thunder that much, really. But again, I just hope it's more Black Panther, the recent one that came out. And to round up winter, there's Cocaine Bear, which is also the last film with Ray Leto in it when he unfortunately passed away this year, and it's about a true story about a bear who goes high on cocaine and causes an absolute rampage about while high on cocaine. Which, again, if it is showing in a place near me, I'm definitely going to watch it just to get some laughs here and there, but the trailer looks absolutely wild. Spring releases! On March the 3rd, there's Creed 3 with Michael B. Jordan, Tessa Thompson, Jonathan Majors, Wood Harris. Again, I haven't got around to seeing the other two Creed films, but I imagine people are going to like this one. There's 65 with Adam Driver. I heard something about it, but I haven't got around to seeing the trailer. Again, this is something that on March 17th, this really interests me. We have Pearl with Maya Goth. Even though I did say it's been released in the United States already as I'm speaking right now, but what really baffled me at the moment that it's really so late compared to United States. Like I hear loads of people talking about it on Twitter and social media and on Instagram, but what really mainly caused that it was the meme of this final shot of the ending of the main character just grinning and just losing her mentality, and her yelling, "But I'm a star!" Again, I think by the time it reaches March the 17th, I'm just hoping worst case scenario that the momentum would have been dead already. But again, I just hope A24 keeps the momentum going, and that the movie's also a sequel to the film, one of the films that came out last year, X from Ty West, I think. But yeah, on the same day, March 17th, there's Shazam: Fury of Gods, which this time with Zachary Levi and starring Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu, which again looks really, really interesting. Because I definitely did enjoy the first film when it came out, but I kind of want to see what he's up to with this one, because I did like the first film. Also on March 24th, there's John Wick Chapter 4. I am slowly getting into John Wick. Like, I may be a little bit late to the party, but I am getting into like John Wick. I should hopefully watch all the John Wick films by the time this gets out. So yeah. On March 31st, there's Scream 6, which this time it's taking place in New York, which should be interesting. And very controversially, there's Super Mario Bros, which has been memed on quite a lot. All the way back when Chris Pratt was announced he's doing Mario. Like, I think the overall consensus of the movie, like, the movie does look beautiful, the animation looks great, great casting, until Chris Pratt speaks. Like, he does not sound a thing of Mario. Like, Mamma Mia! Here's the golden mushroom! Whoopie-doo! Wah! Okay, I don't know where that got from, but still. I think it should be like a decent film, I guess, but I'm just hoping Chris Pratt doesn't ruin it for everyone. But again, this should be an interesting film. There's 7th of April, there's Dungeons and Dragons with Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, and Justice Smith, Hugh Grant. Yeah, a trailer itself looks incredible. Even though I've never played the board game Dungeons and Dragons, or the movie it's called Honor Among Thieves. The movie does look very interesting. I could I bring myself to watch it. And April 21st, there's Evil Dead Rises. Even though it's been like 10 years if it's going to be released, since the one of the Evil Dead films came out, which is right there. Yeah, it came back 2013 with producer Sam Raimi, who directed the original films, and so far got so little advertisement, even though it's going to be released like a couple months away, which is really, really surprising for me, for some reason. But even though I've only been aware about this film's existence like a couple of minutes ago, but it's still very interesting stuff. But we'll see how it goes down. And on to the last month of spring with May 5th with Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Like, I think these are, this trilogy, hopefully the third film is going to be really good, because I really liked the previous two films that came for it. I really like Chris Pratt, Zoe Dandala, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, and also Bradley Cooper, who are all brilliant in this movie. I think this is definitely one of my favourite series of the MCUs that definitely came out of it. I just hope James Gunn does stick to landing with this film before he does move over to DC, since he's basically their version of Kevin Feige now. And May 19th, there's Fast X, or Fast and Furious 10. Again, this one has a bit of controversy, particularly with the director leaving just days after the film started shooting. Again, what got really interesting that he did announce that the director, who I think is Justin Lin, it may be him, but he did come out in an interview that Vin Diesel had been very uncooperative and just been surprisingly rude to him with each more installments. Like, he was just becoming a bit too overly entitled to the point he essentially ghost directed the films. But I'm not sure if the drama is going to completely rain on the movie. But again, this should. I haven't seen the recent ones that came out. I think it was Fast and Furious 9, I think it was. I haven't got around to seeing that. But again, I want to see what's up with the family. And to round up spring, there's Little Mermaid, the live action version with Halle Bailey and Melissa McCarthy and Javier Bardem. Even though the trailer has got a lot of controversy after some far-right lunatics said, "Oh, we're boycotting the trailer because Ariel is now black." Like, really? Is that the one thing you want to rage about this movie? But at the same time, it's a Disney remake, so it's not going to get barely going to get any good reviews. Like, we've seen it with Lion King, we've seen it with Pinocchio, we've seen it with Mulan. Like, I'm not sure Disney's going to really bother turning around the bad reputation the live action films are getting. I think either this is going to completely be the end of like the live action era of Disney, or they're just going to be like what Transformers was like at one stage, being like this zombie franchise where it's still going for some reason, even though everyone hates it and everyone's still like paying money to see it. Summer releases. Starting off summer, we got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Even though I really liked the first film, Into the Spider-Verse, that came out back in 2018, but I didn't necessarily love it in a controversial sense. Mainly because the sole reason was it was a year prior they had Sony released Emoji Movie, and it got like obliterated into high heaven and won dozen Razzies here and there. Then a year later, they turned it around with what was basically considered one of the best animated films of the decade, and to some publications of all time. Even though I have seen the film a couple more times afterwards, I definitely liked it more with each viewing. I might watch it again if it's still on Netflix, or I think I have a DVD of it downstairs somewhere. Again, I think I might love this movie more than the original. Even though the soundtrack is brilliant, the animation is unparalleled. Even though DreamWorks have gone down that avenue with films like Bad Guys and the recent Puss in Boots movies. There's 6th of June. There's Elementals. So I'm really mispronouncing the title for this one. Yeah, what if elements have feelings? I think Pixar have this thing of like, it's almost like is the Price is Right, or that Wheel of Fortune game. Like, select what if select random word had feelings, like, or anything like cars, emotions, toys, furries, like. I think it's now down to elements. I think there was that one era where they did mostly sequels due to Circle 7. Pitching some stuff, then collapsing just days after it launched. But again, that I might be interested to see what Pixar are up to with this one. There's 9th of June, we have Transformers Rise of the Beast. Again, this is a sequel to their spin-off franchise Bumblebee, which came out 2018. And I think Michael Bay is not really that involved in it anymore. I think only as a producer. Mainly because his sequels in his trilogy, I'm only calling it trilogy because Age of Extinction and that 2017 film with Anthony Hopkins was absolute garbage. And pretty much everyone hated it, and it just got worse box office receipts. So I do hope Transformers do stay on this winning track they're on with Bumblebee, and hope it does get far more financially successful than Bumblebee, which didn't do that great commercially, mainly because of the stigma around Transformers being a really cheap franchise to watch. And I think probably the most controversial release lands on June 23rd with The Flash with Ezra Miller. Like, they have been in so much trouble. Like, it's almost beyond parody. Like, they were beating up people in Hawaii. They were kidnapping some native children. They were also ran this cult, and they call themselves the Messiah. Like, I do not see this movie succeeding at all, like either critically or commercially, and has this much of stigma around the movie. Particularly with Warner Brothers that have gone out of their way to literally prop up the movie before any trailer came out or anything that's remotely tied to it, because the movie has been delayed a lot, and we have the Warner Brothers CEO who's doing a lot of cost cutting at the moment. Like, not just watering down the library of HBO Max as well as Cartoon Network, which I think this is adding like not just adding more headaches at Warner Brothers, but it's also like adding to this negative stigma that was the Discovery merger, which again I think a lot of decisions either are David Sarlax's fault or just were just presented really poorly. Again, I think The Flash has just become a mascot of everything that's gone wrong with Warner Brothers over the past 6 or so months. And for the 13th of June, we have Indiana Jones: The Dial of Dynasty with Harrison Ford, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Matt Mikkelsen, Antonio Banderas. I'm not seeing like a great deal of hype around this movie compared to something like Force Awakens. Like, yes, it did get some chatter with like social medias, and this is the first Indiana Jones film where Spielberg is not directing this time with his involvement in Fablesman, and that the recent Crystal Storm movie that came out in 2018, that came out in 2008, was not that critically well received, and it was basically the least liked film by the Indiana Jones consensus. But I do hope, with the rumor being that this is not just the last one with John Williams as composer, but the last Indiana Jones movie. Like, I think Harrison Ford is like in his 80s now. Either this is a case of him passing the baton to one of the younger characters in the movie, presumably Phoebe Waller-Bridge, or this is basically the last days of the adventures of Indiana Jones, which again I'm in for it. Like, depending what the future holds for the franchise. We have on 7th of July we have Insidious 5, even though I'm not particularly too big on this franchise. Again, might hear some good things about that. 14th of July we have Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. I did see that featurette with Tom Cruise literally spending months on end trying to perfect a stunt where he like drives off some like a mountain cliffside or something, like without any CG, without any green screen or anything, or stunt doubles, which again Tom Cruise does everything regardless if it would kill an average person. Probably he's superhuman for all I know. This looks like extremely way more interesting than usual. Not just old villains came back from like the first one from '96, but this is part 1 of 2. Like, it's going to get a lot bigger from there. Even though this is I'm maybe sad to say it, this could be the beginning of the end of Mission Impossible as we know it, because I don't want to. It may be the same excuse as Indiana Jones, like the actors are just getting older and that, and he may be passing the baton to someone else, but again, I am really here for it, and we'll just see how it goes from there. And this is probably the most talked about release date of all. We have July 21st, it's Oppenheimer versus Barbie. Like, this is the showdown Twitter cannot stop talking about. We have Barbie with its teaser trailer, which referenced films like 2001 Space Odyssey, and as well as novels like Children of Men, or one of the plot lines that wasn't mentioned particularly in the film, but very interesting stuff. Like, it's very weird in a very camp way, and also it's been memed on like only middle-aged men would watch this. And also there's Oppenheimer by Christopher Nolan, with like a whole smorgasbord of cast like Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Florence Pugh, Robert Downey Jr., and Rami Malek, like a huge, and Jack Quaid, like a huge cast on this one, which is basically Oppenheimer, and was basically his most consequential decision in modern warfare history, as in the creation of an atom-nuclear bomb. And also, I did joke about it, like, if Barbie's made for, like, middle-aged men, then Oppenheimer is made for, like, girls who are under the age of 12, which is very interesting, which would generally get some chuckles out of me. And also, this is not a too well-known fact. Like, this is the first film from Nolan, I think, not to be distributed by Warner Brothers, after he had a massive falling out with the company over a HBO Max release schedule, which he was not all happy about, and that he was very adamantly against streaming sites like Netflix, Prime, and HBO Max, and gone out of his way to call HBO Max the worst of them all. But however, it was rumoured that he did meet up with David Sarlak of Warner Brothers Discovery, and I'm not sure if this is again a more reconciliation for Warner Brothers, or it's just David Zaslav just apologizing. Again, I've not a bright idea what's happening over at Warner Bros. Given that the company is an absolute mess. On July 28th, we have The Marvels, which is the sequel to Captain Marvel from 2019. Even though it wasn't the most well-liked of the Marvel films, but I did enjoy it regardless. Again, I'm going to check out what Brie Larson brings to the table with this one. Now we head to the last month of summer, which is August. We have The Meg 2. Even though my teacher did mention it during the Spielberg class, like this is the closest we might ever get to a Jaws reboot. But again, I don't see like Jason Statham in it, in the cast list anywhere, unless it more been passed on or he's just moved on from it. On the same day, 4th of August, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem with Seth Rogen involved in the movie. I just hope it is far better than the Michael Bay produced films because they were utter garbage, these movies. Like, I think they were one of the worst films I've seen in a very long time. I just hope, it is animation of course, I just hope it just does not suck at all. Because I just actually get PTSD just thinking about the first one from 2014. Because it was that awful. On my birthday we have Gran Turismo, which is based off the video game series with David Harbour in it and Orlando Bloom. Haunted Mansion with Jamie Lee Curtis and Danny DeVito and Jared Leto. Just hope that doesn't suck like a Disney remake. I think it may be them just moving away from Pirates of the Caribbean and the negative stigma around it, particularly with Johnny Depp recently and his alleged domestic abuse allegation with Amber Heard and some back and forth with them and how Disney is basically treating them afterwards. And we have 18th of August, Blue Beetle. Haven't really heard of that either, so that's the end of summer for me. Autumn releases. Rounding up this year, we have, for 1st of September, we have Equalizer 3 with Denzel Washington reuniting with Dakota Fanning from the 2004 film Man on Fire, which is directed by the late Tony Scott. Again, I haven't seen the first two films, but I might watch that and watch 2 films and Man on Fire, just because I feel like this could be a secret sequel to Man on Fire, almost like split with glass. And we have 15th of September, we have Haunting in Venice, a sequel to Murder on Orient Express and Death on the Nile. Well, with Kenneth Branagh in it, with this time with Jamie Dornan and Michelle Yeoh and Kelly Riley. And a very interesting release for this time on September 22nd, we have the 4th Expendables movie, which would be the first one for like 9 years. This happened after the really poorly received 3rd film, which basically went into more PG-13, more let's make it safe for children because there's more people watching PG-13 movies, like that theory that came around because R-rated movies were not successful back then, but really it's just asking for your franchise to bomb like brutally, or if you want to start a franchise based on an R-rated property and make it PG-13, chances are it's going to be dead on arrival. But I'm hoping it'll be back to its more gritty, really violent R-rated nature. Just none of that really processed, really fake stuff at number 3. We also on the same day, 22nd of September, we have Next Goal Wins with Will Arnett, Michael Fassbender, Elizabeth Moss. Again, this could be a really big comeback vehicle for Michael Fassbender. And on the same way with Brendan Fraser for The Whale. Like, he's been gone for like the past couple of years. Mainly because of the increasingly not well received films with Dark Phoenix and Assassin's Creed, Lights Between the Ocean. Like, not a lot of good reviewed films. And it's based on American Samoa football team who were infamous for having the worst match in history, as in they lost to Australia in 2001 or 2. They lost 32-0. Like, again, that you may think, must be rugby. It's football, like, or Americans, it's soccer. Like, you cannot even get to number 10 ever. Or maybe on a good day, you may even find a game that's where one opponent scored 5, but 31-0, like, every planet had to be aligned for that. It's basically them just making a comeback after like an embarrassment of that game. On 6th of October, we have Craven the Hunter, which I haven't heard anything about them. And this really annoys me for this one. For October 13th, we have The Exorcist remake. Like, for a lot of people, The Exorcist from, I think, 1972 or 1 or 3, around that time. It's considered not just one of the greatest horror movies ever made, but one of the greatest movies ever made. Mainly because, not just of Mark Kermode, but mainly because a lot of things have been thrown around this movie. Like, I think that there was like 2 sequels, one brilliant, one awful, and a supposed reboot no one talks about anymore. Again, I don't think this movie is going to at all live up to that expectation. And also, it does have Ellen Preston from the original film. It may be like one of these sequels that takes like 50 years after the events of the first one, but my expectations are low for this one. And also on the same day, because on 30th of October, because Exorcist may be too scary for the kids, we'll give you Paw Patrol's The Mighty Movie with Tyler Perry and Jake T. Austin, which, again, I remember I'm a person in his mid-20s, like, do I watch Paw Patrol? No. But I did see that SNL sketch with Oscar Isaac, where he basically runs for mayor in the same town it was based on. That was, like, pretty hilarious. 20th of October, we have Trolls Band Together, which is on the Trolls franchise from DreamWorks with Anna Kendrick and Justin Timberlake for this one. I remember the second one causing like a huge wave of controversy, not just despite being released on the first week of the pandemic, but it was like the first direct-to-video film to be given a theatrical release, and a lot of cinema chains were really, understandably, really angry about it, and implications back then that they could be so lethal, could really kill the cinema industry permanently. But of course, a year later or so, or a year and a half later, I would say, cinema is basically back up from its knees and up and running again as it was. Well, not to the strength of pre-pandemic, but it's just strong enough that it now has its presence restored after pre-pandemic. And also, I did remember liking the soundtrack of the first film, kind of. And for 27th of October, this is a really, really weird one. We have Saw X, which is presumably Saw 10. Again, I remember back in 2010 they released, I think it was Saw 7 or 8. And they said it was like, ooh, the final chapter. And since then you released Spiral, which is on the perspective of the police officers tracking down Jigsaw. And Jigsaw saying, haha, I'm not dead yet. I have more people in my traps, and I'm going to kill every one of them until one survives. Like, pew. Again, I thought that they've ended it like years ago, but nope, they probably just rebooted it. And with Tim and Bell's back in the lead, I was like, okay. Which is a little bit weird, but okay. I think this is definitely one of my top anticipated films of this year. There's Dune Part 2 with Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya and Javier Bardem and I think Christopher Walken's in this movie. Like, I really like a lot of Denis Villeneuve's work at the moment, like with Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, Sicario, and this is like his first franchise he's into, and because this is like the second part of a really dense book, which I have the graphic novels adaptation for, I think this is definitely one of my top anticipated films regardless. Like, I really, really like just because I found the first one to be absolutely beautiful, stunning and gorgeous. We have 17th of November, we have The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is, again, a sequel, prequel, I think, of Hunger Games. I haven't seen like trailers or anything, or maybe because I wasn't too big on Hunger Games, maybe because my sister really likes the Hunger Games, to the point I think I remember binging on the franchise like numerous times. I think she's definitely heard of it already, but I think I'm here for it, I guess, but I'm not entirely too big on the franchise myself. And 24th of November we have Wish from Disney, starring Ariana DeBose from West Side Story, which I haven't heard too much about, but some concept arts which look interesting. And to the final month, December, or a year from now, we have Wonka with Timothée Chalamet, Olivia Colman, Sally Harkins, Keegan-Michael Key. I think with Matilda that, although it's released in Netflix with much of the world, but I remember it got advertised a lot here in the UK because it did get a theatrical, like a cinematic release. Like, it did reasonably well, but given like how big Wonka has become, Not just with the chocolate bars, but also with the two big movies like Johnny Depp was one of them, and Gene Wilder is in one of them, and the overall appeal of that world building, and also there was loads of fan theories about this movie, how the movie was basically an allegory of the seven deadly sins of the Catholic Church, but also the most interestingly, which does make sense if you've seen the movie, being that the movie Willy Wonka is actually like a prequel to Snowpiercer, like the sequel that like Snowpiercer with like John Hurt and Chris Evans, Tilda Swinton. Like it does like make loads of sense if you've seen the movie, but again, this is just me going to fan theory area. 20th December, we have the Afterlife Ghostbusters sequel, which I don't remember the first one being setting the world on fire like the 2016 film for the wrong reasons, and also I don't think it's held up as high as the other two films, but again, a favourite. But also same day, 20th December, which really confuses me, we have the musical remake of Colour Purple, which with her or Her in the film, which really surprises me. Like this is one of the more Spielberg's more underrated movies, and I remember you got reading some books that you got some controversies over it, meaning because it's a black story directed by an otherwise white Jewish director. But I think it's going to be based more on the musical in the same realms as Matilda. Like, it's not a remake of a movie, but an adaptation of a musical. Like, you are kind of essentially remaking the movie, since a lot of people associate Colour Purple with that movie, and of course, with the novel that came out in the early 80s. It's a great movie, but really depressing, but it's a great movie nonetheless. But if it's, I kind of want to check out how the musical does it in this one. And last and certainly not least, we have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom on 29th December, or by the time you see this, exactly 1 year away. This movie's got almost so much delays to the point it's almost getting memed on. Like, the only thing you kind of hear from Aquaman Lost Kingdom is like, it's delayed again, oh no, delayed again, and delayed again. It was due to reshoots, and it was due to fixing up the editing, fixing up the CG, it was due to COVID. There was like every reason for it to be delayed, and also with the very conflicting messages, again with Amber Heard with her allegations of domestic abuse with Johnny Depp and the subsequent trial that followed it. Like, some people said she might be completely edited out of the movie, some said she'll be minimalized, like her role will be essential but won't be as big as she wants it to be, or her role's completely unchanged. Like, it's almost like a Rashomon effect that's happening with Aquaman Lost Kingdom. So there you have it. These are my top anticipated films of 2023. Hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. This is Elijah Wells, and bye.